and what is the pattern we are created in, and sort of looking at that almost as a matrix of sorts. Like, what's the matrix that humanity is implanted in? And that's important, because so much of life is trying to return back to first, trying to return back to that image and likeness of God that we were created in. Doesn't make us God at all, even close to that, but it does mean that we have parts of our lives that are to, as in our own human and perfect ways, or to echo the love that we sense coming from God in his creation. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's a beautiful concept around the pattern. And here's the line I want to read. The pattern we were created in. Love for God and for our neighbor constitute that pattern. And then if we live by it, that will be our life, distinguishing us from animals. Love is also the pattern of heaven, which we could inhabit while living in the world. There's a beautiful idea, friends, right? Is there's a number of profound parts to that. And that idea of inhabiting a pattern, like, here's the pattern, here's the matrix. And think of that as the rich soil in which our lives are planted. And the pattern is one of love, and it's a pattern of where we are to learn how to love, and that is the reality. Like evil and evil, sin, all those things. The problem with those things is that they get us out of reality. They get us away from who we were actually created to be, which is why we end up, when we live outside of that pattern, we end up being miserable. We may be on a very surface level content, but there's a deep misery underneath. And, as a pastor, I know working with people, for example, who are struggling with addiction. I don't know anybody who struggles with addiction who thinks, this is a great idea. I am much happier this way. I mean, I know as a pastor, I hear from people over and over again how if they could find a way to sobriety, they certainly could, they certainly would, and they would certainly want to be in that place if they can pull that off. So it's important to remember that, again, like this basic love is this pattern, is this matrix in which things are planted and out of which things grow. So let's just start with that. And then the second part of it that's interesting, and this is a borrowed teaching from the Catholic Church, which is the idea of a whole cloth, that our life of faith at its best, and I don't think we do that terribly easily, by the way, but we can create a life of faith out of this matrix that becomes a whole cloth. In other words, it has these ideals around life, and life with a capital L, Greek word zoe there, Z-O-E. It's life in its biggest, most spiritual sense. That life is just, that is this whole cloth. And we are to make sure that with that whole cloth, that all the pieces are attached one to another. In the Catholic Church, that might have implications in all kinds of specific things. We don't have that as much in the new church. We really try to say, look, your job is to go to the Word yourself, figure it out for yourself. Other churches are more, this is what the church feels about things, and both have advantages and disadvantages. But it's a beautiful concept to think of our spiritual life. Like, what if our spiritual life was just a whole cloth, where everything was woven together? And if you picked a little tiny piece off of here, it would be the exact same woven cloth of this tiny piece over here, because it was the same fabric and the same weave. That's the idea of a whole cloth. And this passage just, I think, reminds us of that. Like, when we really, really get to it, and we really have this powerful place that we live in our lives, and we really are in that matrix. We're really in the matrix that we were created to live in, and we're really there, we're really living the way we were created to live. The life will have that whole cloth feel to it. I don't know whether we get that a lot in this life. I mean, the passage, really says that we can. I think it's probably pretty difficult to do, but I'm sure there are some of you watching it who've managed to pull it off, at least on occasion, in which case it's a beautiful thing. So the thought for today, friends, is just to think of life as that full cloth. And remember that the pattern is for you, for me, for us to be loving other people. That is the pattern. It's this deep love, this deep wisdom that is about serving others, about caring for each other, about caring for the community. That's the pattern. Can we turn that into a whole cloth so that all of our life begins to reflect that, and that becomes sort of the blanket we wrap ourselves in, so to speak. So I hope that makes sense, friends. And what we're going to do now, as we always do at New Church Live, is now we're going to shift gears. And the way we're going to shift gears is we're going to do a little breath. We're going to do a little meditation, a little prayer, and a little blessing. So please go ahead and join me. Let's start out just with a little breath. and a meditation. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, wishing you all the very best. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Like our content? It's funded by viewers like you.